Welcome back, coin enthusiasts and history lovers. Rarest coins today, we're diving into a special coin that could be sitting right in your pocket, changey of the 1982D Lincoln penny. This coin, though seemingly ordinary at first glance, has a fascinating history and, believe it or not, could be worth a small fortune. We're talking up to $1.3 million for the right penny. In this video, we're going to break down the history of the 1982D Lincoln penny, why some of them are worth so much, and how you can identify if you've got one of these rare treasures. Let's get started. First, let's take a step back and look at the history of the Lincoln penny. The Lincoln cent has been a part of American currency since 1909. Created to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The original design featured a portrait of Lincoln by sculptor Victor David Brenner, and this design remains in place today. However, the reverse side of the coin has seen a few changes over the years. For many years, the reverse showed two stalks of wheat, but in 1959, this was replaced by the iconic Lincoln Memorial design. Then, in 2010, the reverse was updated again to the Union Shield that we see today. Now, in 1982, a significant change took place in the production of Lincoln pennies. Before 1982, pennies were made from 95% copper, but due to rising copper prices, the U.S. Mint switched to a new composition, 97.5% zinc, with just a thin copper plating. The Mint produced both copper and zinc pennies during 1982, and this change would have a major impact on the coin's value and future rarity. This brings us to the 1982D Lincoln penny, specifically one of the most sought-after versions of the coin. In 1982, two types of pennies were struck: the copper version and the new zinc version. The key to the 1982D penny's value lies in a special variety of the zinc version, which is often referred to as the small date variety. You see, in 1982, there was a change in how the date was struck on the coin. The small date variety features a smaller size 1982, while the large date version shows a larger, more prominent date. This might sound simple, but it's crucial for collectors because the small date variety is far rarer than the large date. It's not easy to distinguish the two, and spotting a small date 1982D penny requires a keen eye and some serious attention to detail. The small date 1982D penny is much rarer, and this is what makes it so valuable. In fact, depending on its condition, the value of a well-preserved small date 1982D penny can skyrocket. Some of these coins have been known to sell for tens of thousands of dollars. But here's the kicker: in mint condition, with no wear and a well-defined small date, these coins can fetch an astounding $1.3 million at auction. And that's not just a one-time occurrence. This has happened multiple times, making the small date 1982D penny one of the most coveted coins in the world of numismatics. Now, how do you identify if you've got a small date 1982D Lincoln penny in your collection? First, you'll want to focus on the date itself. As we mentioned earlier, the small date has a noticeably smaller 1982 compared to the large date. You can tell the difference easily if you have both types of pennies side by side. The small date will look more compact, while the large date will have a wider, more spread out appearance. The best way to really see the difference is to carefully inspect the coin with a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. When you closely examine the numbers in the date, the small date version will have a subtle and noticeable difference, especially in the size of the 2 and the 8. Once you've identified your penny as the small date variety, the next step is to have it professionally graded. The condition of the coin is crucial to its value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin. A 1982D small date penny in mint state, meaning it has sharp details, no wear, and no damage, can be worth significantly more than one that's been circulated or shows signs of wear. Welcome back, coin enthusiasts and history buffs. Rarest coins today, we're diving into the story of a coin that might be tucked away in your collection or even in your change drawer, the 1972 Lincoln penny. It may seem like just another penny, but there's much more to this particular year than meets the eye. In fact, if you've got a 1972 Lincoln penny with the right characteristics, it could be worth up to $1.4 million. Stick with us as we uncover the fascinating history behind the 1972 penny, its unique characteristics, and why it might be worth much more than you think. The Lincoln penny, first introduced in 1909, has a long history in U.S. coinage. The design, created by Victor David Brenner, features the image of President Abraham Lincoln, making it the first U.S. coin to honor a real person. Over the years, the design of the penny has undergone some changes, but the most notable change was in 1959 when the reverse design shifted from the wheat stalks to the iconic Lincoln Memorial. By 1972, the Lincoln penny had already undergone several updates, but the year 1972 was particularly significant for a few reasons. First, 1972 marked the 163rd anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and the Lincoln Memorial reverse design had become a standard feature for the penny. The reverse of the 1972 penny displayed the Lincoln Memorial on the back, a design that would remain on the penny until 2008. But what makes the 1972 Lincoln penny so special and valuable? The answer lies in one of the most famous error coins in U.S. history, the 1972 double-die penny. This is an example of a striking error, and it's the reason why the 1972 Lincoln penny is highly sought after by collectors. A double-die error occurs when a coin is struck more than once by the die, but the second strike is slightly misaligned with the first. This results in the doubling of certain details on the coin. On the 1972 Lincoln penny, the double-die error can be found most prominently in the date and the lettering of the word Liberty. The most noticeable feature is the distinct doubling of the number 7 in the year 1972, as well as the doubled letters in Liberty and In God We Trust. When you compare a regular 1972 penny to a double-die version, the differences are striking. On the double-die penny, you'll notice a clear and distinct duplication of the details in the date and lettering, giving the coin a blurry, almost ghosted appearance in these areas. This effect is what makes the double-die error so unique and highly valued by collectors. So, how valuable can a 1972 double-die penny really be? Well, depending on the coin's condition, these rare pennies can fetch a significant amount. In general, the more preserved the coin, the higher its value. A 1972 double-die penny in circulated condition might sell for a few $100s, but if you're lucky enough to find one in mint state, well, you could be looking at a much higher price tag, up to $1.4 million in some rare cases. That's right, the $1.4 million. A 1972 double-die penny in perfect condition has been known to break records at auctions. Of course, finding a coin in perfect condition is incredibly rare, but it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility. This rarity is what drives demand among collectors, and why even a penny from 1972 can be worth more than a luxury car, a house, or even a small fortune. So, how can you spot a 1972 double-die penny? The first thing to look for is the obvious doubling of the 1972 date, especially the number 7. The letters in Liberty and In God We Trust will also show signs of doubling. If the doubling is clear and pronounced, it's a good indication that you've found a double-die coin. Once you've identified a possible double-die penny, the next step is to have it professionally graded. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin. The better the grade, the more valuable the coin. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about a coin that has fascinated collectors and historians alike for decades, as of the 1965 Lincoln penny. You might think a penny from this year is just another piece of pocket change, but you'd be wrong. This humble coin could actually be worth a lot of money, up to a jaw-dropping $1.5 million. That's right, this tiny penny could be sitting in your pocket right now, worth far more than you could ever imagine. Stick around to find out how this coin became so valuable, its fascinating history, and why it's worth so much today. First, Let's take a look at the history of the Lincoln penny. The coin was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner, the coin has featured Lincoln's profile on the obverse and a simple reverse design that has undergone minor changes over the years. For most of its existence, the Lincoln penny was made primarily of copper, but that changed in the 1960s. By the early 1960s, the United States was facing a major shortage of copper. The U.S. Mint needed to find a new material for its coins to avoid running out of the precious metal. This led to a major shift in how pennies were made, particularly starting in 1962, when the Mint began experimenting with alternative compositions for coins. In 1965, the U.S. Mint officially changed the composition of the penny. They replaced the copper alloy with a new mix of zinc and copper. The result, a penny that was lighter, less expensive to produce, and made from materials that were more readily available. However, this transition didn't go perfectly, and some interesting things happened during the production process. While most of the 1965 pennies were made with this new zinc-copper mix, a small number were still struck with the old copper plan case, the way they had been made for decades. These pennies, known as the 1965 copper pennies, are extremely rare and incredibly valuable today. The reason why these 1965 copper pennies are so valuable comes down to their rarity. As you can imagine, the U.S. Mint was transitioning from copper to zinc, and most of the pennies produced that year were made with a new composition. Only a handful of copper plan case managed to make their way into the press, creating a rare error coin. These coins are worth far more than face value, and some have been known to sell for hundreds of thousands, even up to $1.5 million in some cases. In fact, some of these 1965 copper pennies have sold for millions of dollars at auctions. One example is a 1965 copper penny that was sold for $1.5 million. It's incredible to think that a coin, which was originally worth just 1 cent, could sell for that amount. But this is exactly what makes coin collecting so exciting. You never know when you might come across a rare gem that could change your life. So, how do you know if you have one of these rare 1965 copper pennies? Well, it's all about the composition. The copper pennies are heavier than the zinc ones. The zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams, while the copper version weighs 3.11 grams. So, if you happen to have a 1965 penny that's slightly heavier, you may have discovered something truly valuable. It's also important to know that the copper pennies have a reddish-brown color, while the zinc pennies tend to have a more silvery appearance. So if you see a 1965 penny that looks more like the older copper pennies you might remember, it could be the one you're looking for. If you find a 1965 penny that fits these criteria, your next step should be to get it professionally graded. Coin grading is essential to determining a coin's value, as its condition can significantly impact its price. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect, a coin that is in excellent condition, with no visible damage and a clear strike, is likely to be worth far more than one that is worn or damaged. Professional coin grading services, like the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, or the Professional Coin. Welcome back to the channel, coin collectors and history enthusiasts. Today, we're diving into a seemingly ordinary coin that could actually be worth a small fortune: the 2013 Lincoln penny. You may think that a penny from just a few years ago wouldn't have any value beyond its face value of 1 cent, but you'd be mistaken. In fact, some of these pennies could be worth as much as $1.1 million. Stick around, because we're about to uncover the history, the potential value, and why a 2013 Lincoln penny could make you a very lucky person. So, what makes the 2013 Lincoln penny so special? Well, it's all about a rare error that occurred during the coin's production. The 2013 penny, like many other pennies, features a portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that's remained largely unchanged since 1909. However, some 2013 pennies were struck with the minting error that turned them into a highly sought-after collectible. Before we jump into the error, Let's take a moment to look at the history of the Lincoln penny. The coin was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner, the penny's obverse, front, features Lincoln's profile, while the reverse originally showed the famous wheat stalks, which were later replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial. Fast forward to 2010, and the design was once again changed, this time featuring the Union Shield as the reverse, a symbol of unity in the United States. In 2013, the U.S. Mint was still producing these pennies using the same modern design, with the Union Shield on the reverse side and Lincoln's portrait on the obverse. But, like all coin years, mistakes happen, and in the case of the 2013 Lincoln penny, those mistakes created a rare, valuable opportunity for collectors. The error we're talking about here is known as the die crack or die break. It occurs when the die used to strike the coins develops a crack or break, which transfers onto the surface of the coin. In the case of the 2013 Lincoln penny, some pennies were struck with a noticeable crack on the reverse side, often running across the design of the Union Shield. This crack can sometimes be large enough to be clearly visible, and when it is, these pennies become highly sought after by collectors. These die crack errors are very rare, and as with all error coins, their value depends on the severity and location of the defect. If the die crack is particularly prominent and runs through key design elements, like the Union Shield or the lettering, it can make the coin much more valuable. But that's not all. There's another element to these error coins that can drive their value even higher: the condition of the penny. Like any rare collectible, the condition of the coin is a huge factor in its worth. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin. A well-preserved 2013 penny with the die crack could be worth much more than a penny that has been heavily circulated or damaged. A penny in mint condition with a clear, visible die crack could potentially be worth thousands of dollars. And if it's particularly well preserved, it could even be worth as much as $1.1 million, especially if it's been certified by a professional grading service. In fact, coins with such errors have been known to sell for extraordinary amounts at auction. In the case of a 2013 Lincoln penny, if you manage to find one with a noticeable die crack and in excellent condition, you could be looking at a life-changing find. Imagine stumbling upon a penny worth $1 million. It may sound like something out of a dream, but for collectors, this is the kind of thing that happens. So, how can you tell if you've found one of those rare and valuable 2013 pennies? The first thing you'll want to do is take a close look at the reverse side of the coin, especially around the Union Shield design. If you notice any lines or cracks running across the design, that's a sign that you might have found a die crack error. Next, carefully inspect. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to explore a coin that's often overlooked but holds great potential for those who know what to look for: the 1985D Lincoln penny. At first glance, it might seem like just another penny, but for savvy collectors, this coin could be worth an astonishing amount of money, up to $1.2 million. Yes, you heard that right. In this video, we'll uncover the history behind the 1985D penny, explain why it's so valuable, and show you how to determine if you have one of these rare coins worth a fortune. Let's start with a bit of background. The Lincoln penny has been a staple of American currency since 1909, when it was introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln penny has undergone some changes over the years, but it's remained a key part of the U.S. coinage system for over a century. Fast forward to 1985, and the Lincoln penny had already been in circulation for nearly 75 years. By this time, the design had become iconic, with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, introduced in 1959. However, 1985 was a year of particular interest for collectors, thanks to a few subtle yet significant factors. Now, you might be wondering, what makes the 1985D Lincoln penny so valuable? The first thing you need to know is that the D on the coin signifies that it was minted in Denver, Colorado. Most 1985 pennies were produced in large numbers, but the 1985D penny, in particular, has some rare qualities that make it highly sought after by collectors. In 1985, the U.S. Mint produced over 8 billion pennies, and while this was a large number, not all of them were created equal. Some of these pennies were struck with subtle imperfections, creating a rare group of coins that collectors would eventually hunt for. Among these imperfections, there are certain 1985D pennies that are particularly valuable due to a unique combination of factors that were not fully understood until years later. One of the reasons the 1985D Lincoln penny is so valuable is because of a variety of minting errors that occurred during its production. Some of these coins were struck with a double die error, a type of minting mistake that causes parts of the design to appear doubled. This happens when the coin dies used to strike the penny are misaligned or worn out. The result is a coin that features double lettering, especially around the Liberty and In God We Trust inscriptions, or even a slight doubling on Abraham Lincoln's portrait itself. These double die errors are incredibly rare, and they are among the most valuable types of coins in the world. A 1985D penny with a double die error could easily fetch thousands of dollars, depending on its condition. But here's where things get even more interesting, as some of these coins are so rare and well preserved that they have been known to sell for upwards of $1.2 million at auction. In fact, a well-graded 1985D double die penny, especially one in mint condition, could potentially be worth more than $1 million. The condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its value. Coins that are in excellent shape, with little to no wear and sharp, clear details, are far more valuable than those with signs of damage or heavy use. Some 1985D pennies with these double die errors have been sold for large sums of money at specialized coin auctions, making them a dream find for collectors. So, how can you tell if you've got a valuable 1985D penny with a double die error? The first step is to examine the coin closely. Look for any doubling around the letters, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. The doubling may be subtle, but if you spot it, you could be holding a rare coin. The best way to confirm the presence of a double die error is to use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe to get a better view of the details. If you do find a double die error on your 1985D penny, it's a good idea to have the coin professionally graded.